thrilled to be here. I brought my Kleenex because I've been crying already 3 times this morning. So there's a good chance that might happen. But I wanted to welcome you, not just from me, but from the other 2 lovely faces that you see up on the screen, Brooke and Sarah. Obviously, Sarah shared her story this morning, which was absolutely incredible because she likes to stay behind the scenes. She's kind of our ninja in the background. So to see her up here shining her light was a really special moment. And I would not be up here without the help of these 2 ladies. They have helped the restoration project become something that I never even could have dreamed that it could be. So thank you both for all of your love and support. We're going to talk today about finding your way to enough, and enough being, when we sit with our coaching clients, and I've had several people ask me, like, so what is it exactly that you guys do, and who exactly do you coach? And I mean, from teachers to teenagers to CEOs, we work with a wide variety of people, but individual coaching rooted in really identity and intentions. So who am I? What are my unique gifts? Who do I want to be? And in those conversations, people are always asking us, am I being enough? Am I doing enough? What is enough? And in the title, it says potential and peace. And part of this journey, so over the last year, we've been really doing a lot of work around what is enough and how do you define it, how do you get there, how do you feel it. And potential and peace is one of those things, like if you can see potential, if you're a dreamer like I am, it's hard to be at peace with where we are and who we are right now. And we've got to learn to hold both of those things together to really be able to see potential, but then find peace in the everyday. And so I'm going to give you some questions and some practices that will help you find your way to enough. And this conversation has become even more personal to me because on February 22nd, I lost my mother-in-law. Tears already. And I was visiting, my mom is here. Hi, Mom. And we were visiting last night, and this topic became really real for me that week that she passed, because my mother-in-law suffered many, many years in chronic pain with a lot of health complications, and she couldn't do anything really on her own. And at the end of her life, watching her those last 4 months, when she couldn't get out of bed, when she couldn't feed herself, she still had this joy and love about her and felt really like, I mean, from all intents and purposes, what I could tell, like she was being enough. She knew that the hugs that she shared, the laughs that she gave us, the conversations that we had, just her being alive and being there was enough and a sense of peace. And later so she passed on a Thursday, and that following week, I had a coaching client, and this woman is an executive. She's doing all the things. She has an incredible family. She volunteers in the community. She's doing it all. And she told me, Lindsay, I feel like I'm failing at everything. I'm not doing enough. I'm not being enough. And so my first nugget that I really want you to settle into your heart as we start this conversation and go into some of these questions and practices is that I realize in that moment that enough, being enough, doing enough, is not something to be earned, but something that needs to be acknowledged and then accepted. Enough is not something to be earned, but something that needs to be acknowledged and then accepted. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that. We're going to talk through some practices. But we can't find it out here, right? My mother-in-law, if she was depending on external validation to find her way to enough, she never would have got it. She had to find it in here, and for some of us, up here. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with the question, the 3 questions. What is enough? When will I do enough? And when will I be enough? The green slide. They're running my slides back there. If you struggle with these questions, that's an invitation to explore, and we all do in different seasons of our life. We have worked with some of the most successful people on paper, and they still struggle with these questions. So I'm not here to tell you that you're enough, because I don't know. That could be dangerous, but I'm going to help you find your way there. And if you were hoping for a feel-good session, that's not what this is going to be. You're going to probably feel convicted and uncomfortable more than anything else as we move through this together. So let's start first with the next question, which is, what is the bar and who is setting it for you? When it comes to you thinking, am I being a good enough wife? Am I doing enough work? Who is setting the bar? And what is the bar and who is setting it for you? When people walk into my office and they tell me I'm not being a good wife, I don't feel like I'm being a good mother, I say, what does that mean to you? Tell me why. Give me some specifics. And as they talk through, it becomes pretty clear. But we tell ourselves that narrative. So I would challenge you to keep this question and come back to, what are the specifics? What are you doing? Who are you being? So that you can find some validation in what you are doing. And for most of the people that we get to work with, they are female executives who have, high-powered jobs. They've got families. They're doing it all. And I've had to help them come back to washing the bottles, doing the laundry. These things are helping your family, right? We have to make ourselves consciously aware. We tend as women to think about, well, I'm not doing enough because I'm not at work from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And we're not recognizing all that we are doing. So what is that bar and who is setting it for you? And this became real for me, not necessarily about myself, but I'll give you another physical example. We were with our financial planner a few years back, and I have a scarcity mindset around money. I struggle with it, which is why I'm going to Robin's session later. I can't wait. And he asked me, Lindsay, when will it ever be enough? What is the number you're looking for that I can project on the screen that tells you you're going to be okay in retirement? And at that moment, I didn't know. I couldn't give him a number. And then as I sat with that more, I realized my husband and I live a pretty simple life. We are not going on these extravagant trips and spending all of this money. So even the number, I was allowing culture to set for me. So bring that question and all that energy back into yourself. All right, so we're going to get into steps. First step, and these are aligned with our mission statement, which was so fun for me. So our mission is build connection, restore intention, and inspire action. And that's what we're going to walk through. Because the first thing we have to do on our way to finding enough is to come back to ourselves, to become consciously aware of where we are and what we're doing and what we want. We have to bring ourselves back here. We can't be scattered. That place of calm that Sarah talked about, that's what we have to come to first. And self-assurance, confidence, self-assurance starts with self-awareness. So I want to give you some questions, and then we'll walk through some practices together to increase our self-awareness. So this first set of questions is just for you to come back into your body. How many of you are right now somewhere else in your brain? Most of us. So these questions help us just come back in. How do I feel right now in this moment? What am I worried about? What am I excited about? What do I need? This is the power of journaling. This is why journaling helps us improve our confidence and our self-awareness, because these questions really force us to know ourselves better. We're so worried about everybody out here and what they're doing and comparing ourselves to everyone else. If we can take that energy in step one and bring it back in, we're going to get closer to finding our way to enough. So that first set of questions, conscious awareness, back to the present moment. Now, the second set of questions make people, especially women, so uncomfortable. So this is you recognizing your unique gifts and your strengths. If you cannot be an advocate for yourself, nobody else is going to be. Hannah is a perfect example. I have watched Hannah's journey from afar. I'm a huge fan. She has hit obstacle after obstacle, and if she wasn't sure of what she wanted and who she wasn't going to be able to run through the brick walls that she's had to run through to get where she's at. So what am I best at? All of us in this room need to start being louder and prouder about the answer to that question. What comes naturally to me? What positive feedback am I given? And then who am I at my best? Again, these are questions we go through with our coaching clients all the time. And in our own practice, so Brooke and I started the restoration project on my own, and then shortly after, Brooke partnered, and then Sarah came on board. And at the beginning of Brooke and my business partnership, we were always comparing ourselves to each other. I mean, Brooke is just such this lovely, warm hug, of a person. Everyone wants to be around her. She's so lovely. Sarah is just this overwhelmingly calm presence that everyone wants to be around because you just feel good when you're around her. And then me, the bull in a china shop. I got a lot of ideas. I like to wreck people's feelings by being too direct. And we had to really work through finding our unique light and shining that right alongside each other, but not trying to be somebody that we're not, and not trying to take on and be who Brooke was or the parts of Sarah that I love about her, but really challenging me to come back to myself and figuring out, what am I best at? What comes naturally to me, so that we can shine equally beside each other. That has helped us each find our way closer to enough and allows us to each shine our light bright without the yuckiness that can be women competing against women. So those are the questions, and then practices to bring us back to who we are, where we are, and what we want. Silence and solitude. Number 1. How many of you are scared of silence and being alone? A lot of things come up, right? When we're alone, in the quiet, all those questions that we've been avoiding, all those feelings that we've been running from, and that's what we have to face and work our way through as a first step to getting closer to finding our way to enough. Nature and play is another one. Just getting outside, realizing that you're part of something greater than yourself can be such a good way to reconnect. And then rest, exercise, and breath work. And women, for most of us in this room, this is your step. This first step is what we need to work on. You need to be reconnecting with yourself, really understanding yourself, and giving yourself room to do some of these things. Even if it's 5 minutes in the car. When we're working with clients, if you have no space, just shut the radio off while you're driving. Give yourself a little bit of that quiet time to connect with yourself and process what's going on around you. All right, let's go to the next slide. So this is step 2. Now we're connected, we're aware, we're conscious of who we are and what we want. Then we got to start digging into what are the dreams that we have? What are the intentions that we really have? So these questions can help us in that area. What does success mean to me is a question that Sarah referenced when she was speaking. That's a question we ask often in our first initial coaching client sessions, because it's not my job to determine for you what success looks like. Everyone has a different definition, and you're going to have a different definition of success based on the season of life that you're in. For some of us, we've got to accept that we've got little ones at home and have to quit the job that we love, like Sarah so bravely did. What's meaningful and valuable to me? What matters most right now, and where can I remove noise? Finding these things out about ourselves also helps us understand why when we're in certain situations or in certain environments, we don't feel good. Some environments it's not going to feel good. And even when we're in seasons where things are calm and not stressful, I get really uncomfortable. I don't like being safe and calm, so I'm trying to stir up and do more. And these questions help us figure those parts of ourselves out. Next slide. One daily practice that we go to often is called SNAP. How many of you have heard this? We talk about this almost every time we get to speak. So this is not ours. This is from a book on the Enneagram, I think, is where we first discovered it. But stop, notice, ask, and pivot. The purpose of this exercise is to become more aware and conscious of what you're thinking, but also to make a more intentional next choice. I find this exercise very helpful when I'm in a defensive state, when somebody's given me feedback or I'm feeling like I'm moving into fight or flight mode. I try to use stop. Like just calm your body a little bit. Notice what's going on around you, the sights, the smells, bring you back to that current moment. And then ask yourself a series of questions. So what's happening in this moment? How am I feeling? What do I know for sure? Why is this important? Where am I seeking validation? Insert whatever question makes sense for you in that moment. And then pivot is making that next intentional choice to elongate that period between something happening, incident, and response, right? Give yourself a pause and a break so that you can make a more intentional choice. I have to do this a lot when I'm in a heated discussion because I tend to keep going. And Brooke and I had an incident in a team meeting that Sarah's had to witness where she needed space. Like, I'm a person that when we're in an argument or we're trying to work through something, even with my husband, I just want to work it out right now. Let's just keep going until we get this thing worked out. Well, some of us need space. We're going to say something bad. We just need some time to process what's going on. And I was not respecting that. I could see Brooke shutting down, and I knew that I needed to stop talking and give her some space, but I kept going at what was happening. This exercise has helped me not do that as much when I practice it on the daily. Just giving myself that extra pause. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? Notice, make a different choice. So that's a daily practice. And then some other practices to help restore intention that you can incorporate into your everyday life. Reflection and journaling. This can look 1,000 different ways, you guys. I'm not saying spend an hour, sit down, get your notebook out, write everything that's on your heart. This could be a simple just check-in. How am I feeling right now? It doesn't even have to be written down. I have one client, she hates journaling so much that she just does voice memos to herself as she's driving. Whatever. The point of reflection and journaling is, again, to really help you understand yourself and the narratives that are going on and give yourself some space to process what's happening in your life and what's happening around you. Meditation and gratitude is that second practice. Meditation, so my friend Jody Stepanek is in the audience, big heart, and mindfulness and meditation, and this has become really powerful for me. Now, Jody, I know, practices as she should because she's a teacher at a whole different level. Meditation for me sometimes looks like 1 minute. I did a minute, I did it. But that space, and this is what I've come to love, Jody really helps you not only practice meditation, but also understand the science behind it. And the point is that you can be more calm and make more intentional decisions in your everyday life. It's not everyone needs to sit for those long of hours, but it really does give you reps in processing and making a more intentional decision. So meditation, a gratitude practice is obviously a really good one. Some of us are naturally cynical and negative. I have a guy friend that we met for coffee this week, and he just said, I'm just attracted to the darkness. I can't get myself out of the darkness. And for him, he has to work a lot harder than to have that gratitude practice, and that helps us recenter, come back to a better place. And then creating and affirmations. These help us restore intention because they help us remember a different part of ourselves. So when we're creative and we're doing something for no reason, it brings that childlike part of us back that we have to be connected with in order to live a full life. And affirmations is something I thought they were bullshit, if I can be honest, that these things did not work until I think we talk about affirmations as almost like fluffy sometimes. And I'll share a really personal example for me. So my parents divorced when I was young, and my dad was abusive. And so from a young age, I operated from a place of I'm not safe. I could feel it in my body. I made decisions because of that that I wouldn't normally make. I didn't trust people. That was my mode of operation. And when I started saying the affirmation, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, I am okay. And I did that for about a year and a half. And those closest to me can attest, something shifted in me where for the first time I realized I am safe. And I felt it in my body. I'm no longer in that place. I don't have to be in that fight or flight mode. So it can be as deep and meaningful as that. It just, you have to spend some time thinking about what is that message that I need to hear that's different, that will get me back to a more restored and intentional space. All right, next slide. Now we're going to walk into action. So we've gone from, okay, I'm conscious and aware, I've built connection with myself, I've restored my intention, I kind of understand where I'm at, what I want, where I want to go. Then we need to work on turning that into action. And this is the hardest part. You're going to know that you've arrived when, I think Hannah used the term, follow your heart. When you're willing to take the steps that your heart says you're going to take, you know that you're in the right space. And I just was talking to Marlo Higgins about this. I met with her in 2019 when I was just trying to figure out what the restoration project was going to be, and she was so kind. I don't even know, I just barfed all this stuff out on her, and she was probably like, this lady's crazy. But she was so gracious and asked me some really pointed questions, and she said to me this morning, look at what you've done. You followed your heart, and it's nothing that I thought it would be. It's so much better than that. But I stopped trying to use this and start trying to use this, and it changed everything for us. So these questions that will help you kind of move into action, now that you become aware of where you're at and what you want, what do I need to let go of? Because in order to get from where we are to where we want to be, most of the time it's not about adding or doing more, it's about deleting and doing less. What are the things I need to let go of? Then, what do I need to do more of? How can I best contribute? And what is my heart telling me? I am an extremely logical person, so to this day, I have to do this when I'm making decisions because this thing talks me out of what I'm supposed to do every single day. So the more you can listen to it, the more you can take steps, the more you can follow it in small ways that don't, when I came home to start the restoration project, I was in probably the peak of my sales career, made more money that year than I'd ever made, and I told my husband, I think God's calling me to be a pastor. I think I'm going to quit my job. That was on my heart. I wouldn't suggest anyone do that. Start with smaller, less risky jumps. It's worked out, thank God, but literally. But start with the little things first, and then you'll see, oh, this does work. I don't always have to have it figured out up here. If I'm just willing to take a step, it's going to work itself out. So I want to give you a practical exercise for clearing the noise out and getting rid of some things that are in the way. And we call it the dump exercise. Super simple. Just take out a piece of paper. And honestly, we use this daily, weekly, monthly to clear out and reset what I'm thinking, what I'm doing. If you're in a season of overwhelm, It's amazing what just getting everything that's up here and in here out on paper can do so that you can physically see it. So get a piece of paper out and just write out what's on my mind, because those are usually the things that are front and you kind of got to get out. And then what's on my to-do list is usually second. And then you'll be able to hear your heart. What's on my heart? And usually stuff in there, the stuff in your heart is the things that you're worried about, the feelings that you're having. And in this process, when you're looking at it, then you can see and decide what's really mine. What's mine to control? What's mine to do? When I do this, for me, it's always the what's on my heart. I have a really long list of stuff that is weighing me down emotionally that is not mine. And there's nothing I can do about it. But that takes our energy and it diverts us away from being focused on what we want and what we need. And I want to reiterate, when we talk about this work and becoming your best self, I know for many of you in the audience, it feels selfish, especially for women. We're so conditioned to serve other people. But the point of all of this is to really get to know yourself and love yourself so that you can get out and serve people in a bigger and in a better way. So it's not, yes, it feels self-serving and it can be self-serving at times, but the point of it is to get to a place where then you can turn your energy back outward. So that's the dumping exercise. Get all that down and then delete the things that are not yours, prioritize the stuff that needs to be first, and then start to do it. Get radical about reducing the stuff that's on your list. Be really honest with yourself about what's possible. In our business, we have, I know God put me with these two ladies for a reason, because I'm seeing 5 clients a day, and I'm seeing clients from, just crazy expectations. I did not realize when I left the corporate world how high the volume of activity that I was doing was, but how low the quality and richness and depth of it was. And now if I see 3 really good clients in a day, wholeheartedly, fully connected, deep in, that is a totally different energetic experience. And we need to recognize that our work, even the little things that you do, if you do them wholeheartedly, they take more energy. So the expectations that we put on ourselves about what we can do are very unrealistic, and we need to really radically reduce and think about what are the most important things, and I want to put my whole heart and my energy into those things. Other practices that can inspire action, because this is to move us from the thinking to the doing. All this is great. One of our first lunch and learns, it was a full day of self-reflection. And this group of engineers came. I have no idea how they found us. We're like, do you really know what you're signing up for today? The guy walked out at the end of the day, and he's like, I think there's such thing as too much self-reflection. And so I appreciate, you can't stay stuck there, right? All this is good. The questions are good. The reflecting is good. The practices are good. And then we got to go do something about it. So these things help us get to the doing. So boundaries, huge one. On your time, on your money, on your energy, on your emotions, on relationships. We have a lot of practice in this area, a lot of personal stories that we'll save for another time, but come find us if you're having trouble setting boundaries in your life. And we're continuing to learn. That's hard. And as your life shifts, those boundaries have to shift. Then habits. What are the habits? If you have bad habits, no matter how much good intention you have, you're not going to have the ability to take action. So are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? Are you exercising? Are you setting, these middle 3 are so important. And we work mostly in the corporate space, so we kind of focus on those. But intention setting, what am I trying to get done today? Most of us are just letting life happen to us instead of being intentional about what's the one thing I got to get done today? And then think time and preparation. Giving yourself some space in your day to think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you want to do it, and being prepared, whether that's a meeting or a conversation, give yourself some of that space. And then we are heavy and hard on routines. I love Jocko Willink. Have any of you read his book, Extreme Ownership? It's very masculine and military because he is a Marine. But what I love about it, his saying from that book is discipline equals freedom. If you can set your life up in a way where you've got a learning routine, so you're always growing, meaning you're reading books, you kind of set up some goals and routines around learning, around vision and goal setting, around rest, around self-care, then you can use all your energy for the connections to the people that you're experiencing every day or the ideas that you have. But so many of us don't have discipline around those core pieces of our life, and so then we don't have any energy for the ideas or the people in them. So really lean into developing some routines in different areas of your life. And a big critical one for me is that letting go routine. We sit with people in really great mountaintop moments, but also in some of the deepest valleys in the work that we do. And I have to remember when I come home at night, that's not my story. That's not my feeling. That's not where I'm at today. So my letting go routine is a lot about releasing other people's emotions that I've taken on through the day so I can come back to a really good, sacred, whole space so that I can show up the next day well for whoever's going to be in front of me. I'm going to leave you with a poem, and then I wanted to make sure we left enough time for questions. So I wrote this while we were going through this really big journey on finding your way to enough, and it is just the perfect ending for what I hope you will feel as you take some of these questions and practices in the coming days. There is a light, divine, serene, stunning, perfect. It shines in darkness, through storms, unwavering. Warm and true, pure and holy, drawing you in. It's all you desire. It's all that you long for. It can heal the world. Love, that light is you. Thank you. Questions?
It's on? Oh, now it is.
Jody.
Jody. Hold on. Wait. I'm coming.
Oh.
Right here.
Follow the rules.
I want, if you can talk about what are some of your routines that you do on a daily basis to get you intentionally set for the day.
Yeah, thank you. So morning routine is critical for me. I'm a in my head person. Like naturally, I kind of live up here and not in my heart space. And so, I'm going to share with you my whole morning routine. It's a lot. It has built over many years. So I started with just one little thing and then mastered that and started building on it. But when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do when I open my eyes is thank God for a new day. May your will, wisdom, and words shine through me. Thank you. And then get up, brush my teeth, go downstairs, get a workout in. I got to get the wiggles out. To be a good human being, there's a lot of energy in this body in the morning. So I've got to get my wiggles out. And while I'm working out, I'm always listening to something that is more spiritual or heart-centered, because if I go straight into like a business book or a strategy thing, I'm not going to come into the world in the way that I want to. So I need something that opens up my heart space. And when I'm done working out, then I have a little section in my basement that I would call it an altar. It's got a cross and it's got my books and candles, and I sit there and I read a couple of devotionals, pray, meditate, even if just for 1 minute. And then get my protein shake, get ready for the day, and head out. But if I do not, it doesn't matter. If I've got to meet a client at 7 a.m., I'm getting up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. I have to do that. I have to do that routine. And then when it's nice outside, I love to do that on our back patio, get my feet in the grass. Jody has taught me how important grounding is. And then in the evenings, I have an equally, I would say, regimented routine when I come home, just so I can reset and come into my house and space in a better way. And that developed over COVID because I had a really hard time disconnecting from my work when I was working and living in the same space. That's a shorter, what are 3 things I did well today? Because that's something we don't do as women, is celebrate ourselves. What are 3 things I did well today? And then I do my letting go routine. And if that's all that I need, that's what I do. If I need something else, I got a lot of other fun things that I could incorporate. Thanks for the question. That's the hardest part of the work that we do, is that we have to practice what we preach. It sucks sometimes.
So true. Anyone else? Anyone else have a question? You can ask anything. She has the right to not answer, but you can ask anything.
I'm an open book.
You mentioned during your workout that you listen to certain things that open your heart. What
Yeah.
are some of those things that you listen to?
Yeah, so several things. I intentionally choose books, so I'm not going to go through naming all of those, but like right now I'm reading, have any of you, I'm sure you've heard of her, Pat Summitt, used to be the Tennessee Volunteers women's coach, her life story. So just things like that are more soul-filling. And then I've got a couple go-to podcasts. I'm a faith-forward person, so I've got a church in San Francisco called Epic Church. I listen to their sermons every Monday. Tim Keller is one of my favorite spiritual teachers, so I'm listening to his stuff regularly. And then on Pandora, there's a station called Gospel and Workout that I really love, because I need my like hip hop vibes, but I don't like all the swearing and nasty stuff that sometimes you hear in that music. So that would just be an example. But I also, some days, like this morning, just need quiet. Like if I've got something that I'm getting ready for or just need some processing time, I can kind of feel when I'm too full. I've had too many inputs and I just need some time to process, then I'll just work out in the quiet. Sarah. Thanks, Sarah. Like you don't already know everything about me.
Maybe. What is one of your favorite lessons that you've learned from a client?
Oh, from a client? Ooh, good question. Favorite lessons from a client. I would say that probably a couple years into our business, I acquired a client down in Nashville, and I love them because the CEO called me and he's just like, we've doubled in size, we're having trouble getting things done, we're having trouble maintaining our culture. Is that something you can help with? I don't even know really what we need. And he's become one of my favorite clients. But that mark, like 2 years into our business, I was at a place where we were trying to do what we do, how other people thought we should do it. So we were using more corporate language, we were using different questions, we were trying to market in a way that was attractive to corporate organizations, and he really pushed me. He's like, Lindsay, I see I know who you are, and I see what you're doing, and those are not the same thing, and I understand why you're doing it, but you need to stop. Like once and he's been somebody who lived that out. Like when he followed his heart and really opened up to what his heart wanted for his business, it went on a different path, and that he kind of gave me the courage to do that. So that was just a solid piece of advice that I needed at the time. But in that, I love to tell people he's one of my favorite clients because he calls me out just as much as he pays me to call him out, and I love those kind of relationships.
What are some of the top books that you recommend for your coaching clients?
top books.
Yeah, books.
So it depends on how deep you want to go. So The Alchemist is definitely a top recommend for anybody, just because it's a spiritually based book. I love The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. I'm trying to think of other individual. The book Reboot by Jerry Colonna, they coach. They have a very similar model to what we do that we love, but he coaches venture capital firms, and it's about how our stories from childhood and how our experiences from childhood shaped us into the leaders that we are, and that's really aligned with the work that we do. And then Parker Palmer. Anything by Parker Palmer, I would highly recommend. I love him. He's another really good spiritual teacher. And I'll put a plug in for my own. I'm publishing a book that's coming out in the fall. So, and it's hopefully a narrative and guide for how to live, lead, and work with more intention. It's called Take It All Apart. And it's going to be a hard read and a hard study, but that just to help more people do that work. Thanks for the question, Hannah.
I have a question for you on how to measure. I feel very accomplished at the end of the day if I've marked 20 check boxes or checked 20 boxes. I've done my laundry, I've prepared meals for the next day, and I feel great. But if I have a day that I did 2 big things that like make my heart feel good, I don't feel as accomplished, and I struggle with that. Mm-hmm. But those days are honestly better for me. So how do you measure those days to feel equally as accomplished as marking all those check boxes?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I think a lot of us feel that way, right? If we're not doing all the things and checking things off the list, then what are we doing? Teresa, I think spending some time with what does success look like for me and what is my definition of success, that's helped me, somebody who's a very high achiever, realize that the day on the couch with my husband watching Netflix, because that's his idea of good quality time, that is really what's growing and deepening our relationship, and I've just had to change that narrative in my head. I had a successful day today because I'm investing in this relationship and I'm giving my husband what he needs. So it's not a thing to do, but it's more about who we're being and the character and the relationships that we're developing. So if you can still, does that make sense? If you can still find, here's how I'm bettering myself or bettering my relationships or bettering my life, sometimes it is just rest. When I have a day that I've had a really long week and I stay in my pajamas and sleep all day on Sunday, I celebrate that I let myself do that because that's what I needed.
Lindsay, this is Joanna Carl. Mine is not really a question, but I think that sometimes the people that we surround ourselves with is really, really important because one Saturday I said to my husband, well, I just feel like I wasted the whole day. I didn't do anything. And she's like, what are you talking about? You vacuumed the whole house. So then it reminded me that I did something.
Yes, yes.
So sometimes we just need to surround ourselves with people who are positive, not to always be cheerleaders as such, but to say, it's okay. You did enough.
That is really important because you're getting reinforcement from the people around you. And back to maybe both of those things, something that flipped for me a couple years ago, I kept telling my coach, I just want peace. I just want peace. And he's like, well, you're not letting yourself have it. You can't experience it if you don't let yourself rest and be in a peaceful moment. And that was a big if I want peace, I've got to create pockets of peace in my life, which is not the doing, it's the being and enjoying things. That is developing me as a more whole human and a whole life.
Yeah.
Oh, one more, then we'll get you, I promise. This
I
lovely
have a
lady
quick
up here.
question. So you deal a lot with corporate clients. What about the entrepreneur? I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here. We work very much alone. And where do you find that validation? When I worked in corporate America, I had a boss telling me, oh, you did a really good job today.
Yep.
I am my own boss. I have to be kind of my own cheerleader. How do you keep that momentum and that inner cheerleader going?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And I feel your pain because before Brooke and Sarah joined me, I was on my own. And that is, I mean, if you're having a bad day, that can be a really dark place. And it feels like you got to pull yourself out of it. So the one practice, like the 3 things I did well today, I think you being your own advocate and providing your own validation and making space for that helps. But that's why we have to have each other. So this idea that Hannah brought up about connection and collaboration and creating a community for yourself is so critical. We have to have that, whether that's your friends or a mentor or other community, like just finding those pockets of people that can cheer you on, and us being willing to be honest about what we need from them. I need you to give me some positive feedback. I need you to give me affirmation. All of us need it. And so I think we can't be fearful of asking for it from the people that are around us and close to us.
Who had the last question?
This lovely lady right here. I can't see her name tag. Eyes are wearing out.
You were saying you have to let it go when you get home. So you're going to face a myriad of probably emotions and feelings throughout the day because your clients are going to be all different. You don't know what you're going to face. What do you do when it's been a bad day to let it go?
How do I do what I do?
When it's been a bad day, how do you let it go?
Yeah, so for me, again, I think everybody's got to find their practice. That's why we try to get really not too prescriptive. But for me, I have to come back to, it's almost a meditative space. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Is there something in this moment I can do that I need to work through it? Or if I've got a client coming in 5 minutes and I can't get myself there, then I have to say, I'm going to have to put this on the shelf and do it later. But I have practices that help me like come back to a better space. And part of that is when a client walks in, I lock in so hard on who they are and what they want and what they need that my stuff goes to the side. You know, that being fully present in the moment can help us so much. But we've got to be disciplined and focused enough to bring that back to now. And some people say that that's unhealthy. We're compartmentalizing or whatever. For me, I have to do that some days. And as long as I know that I'm going to come back to it when I get home and like close that emotional loop and work through it by putting on a sad song and bawling my eyes out or punching the punching bag that my husband bought me so that I don't do anything else destructive. Those things are helpful, you know. But I have to give myself that moment to kind of reset and figure out, is this something I can work through right now? Or is this something that I'm going to have to kind of put on the shelf and work through when I've got more time? Okay, well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. You guys are the best.